I've been poisoned 3 times.
Now let Diddy out. Free Diddy.
Wow, you think somebody didn't want me to do this interview? Yeah, somebody didn't want me to do this interview. Why are so many people coming down with pneumonia?
Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. Every eye was fixed on Sean Diddy Combs as Piers Morgan took the witness stand. Morgan's testimony brought forward serious accusations that immediately captured the attention of everyone present. But it wasn't just what was said, it was how Diddy responded. His visible reaction added another layer of intensity to the moment. What exactly did Morgan say that shook the music mogul so deeply? And how did the court react to these unexpected revelations? This moment marked a major turning point in the case, raising new questions and fueling public interest like never before.
Because the last time I was scheduled to be in this interview, randomly, our car gets hit from the side by a blacked out vehicle, no license plate. That's happened 3 times this month so far.
Really?
Somebody didn't want me to do this interview. Yeah, somebody didn't want me to do this interview. You know, I'm somebody where I've had FBI come to my house before and tell me they found a threat against my life.
P. Diddy, this seems like every day the scandal gets bigger and worse for him.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I'm not surprised whatsoever. I mean, I think I was on your show before he got arrested, and I brought up what was going on with him, and because I had read through the lawsuit, and it was just one of those things that was unavoidable because there was so much evidence. I mean, there was picture documentation, there was video documentation. And I also want to be clear that the press and the media and the public at large is shocked by what's happening, but we really are just getting to the beginning of everything.
A lot of things start happening to remove people from the case that are going to strengthen the case for the prosecution. And I feel like we're watching that take place now with one of the male sex worker guys who provided tapes to the feds. He's disappeared. And this is similar to what happened in the Tory Lanez case, where the bodyguard whose DNA was on the weapon, he disappeared.
Inside the courtroom, hush fell over the courtroom as Piers Morgan entered, his appearance unexpected and almost surreal. Known more for his media presence than any connection to the music industry, Morgan's role in the trial caught many off guard. Even veteran reporters exchanged curious glances as he approached the witness stand with calm, steady steps. This was the second week of proceedings in a case that had already taken a dramatic turn. Music icon Sean Diddy Combs was at the heart of a legal storm, facing serious accusations involving abuse of power and secretive social gatherings. But few anticipated that Morgan, a British journalist and TV host, would become a central figure in the unfolding drama. As news of his subpoena made headlines the week prior, questions began to swirl. Why was he involved? What did he know? And would his testimony reveal something deeper about the mogul's private world? Once seated, Morgan adjusted the microphone and began with poise. He outlined his connection to Combs, citing both personal insights and accounts shared with him. Then came the moment that shifted the room's energy. Morgan claimed to have direct knowledge of private gatherings that had been the focus of much speculation. The weight of his words filled the air, and quiet murmurs spread across the gallery. It wasn't just the content of his claims, it was the implication that tangible proof might exist. The defense quickly pushed back, challenging his credibility and suggesting he was seeking attention. But Morgan stood firm, responding confidently and without hesitation. What truly caught everyone off guard was what came next. He alluded to the existence of communications, photos, and testimony that could support his version of events, though he stopped short of presenting them on the spot. The courtroom was left suspended in silence, anticipation building with every second. As Morgan stepped away from the stand, one question echoed throughout the courtroom and beyond. Could he truly prove what he had suggested? The world was watching, waiting for the next move in a case that had become far more than anyone had imagined.
Whenever they have an addiction to MDMA or the drug ecstasy, they call it the love drug. So he's been doing this drug for over 20 years. So that's going to lead his view skewed when it comes to sexual activity. I believe it's helped turn him into a sexual deviant. And, you know, what type of man wants to see another man urinate in his wife's mouth? I feel like it's evil. I think his behavior is egregious. And, you know, I have a history of using very heinous acts on people like this who participate in this type of lascivious acts. Have you ever noticed how in this industry, people untimely meet their demise as soon as somebody else seems like they're having a problem? Have you ever seen that before?
Well, there was, of course, the case of one of his other ex-girlfriends, Kim Porter, who died of pneumonia at a very young age. You've just referenced your own situation with pneumonia that you believe was deliberate poisoning. Do you believe that may be what happened to her?
Jamie Foxx said out of his mouth that his partner handed him an Advil, and after he took that Advil, he woke up 22 days later. That's what he said out of his mouth. I feel like us as a species, I feel like human skepticism has become a virus, because if we don't trust the words of our peers, where are we as a species? You know, eyewitness testimony and circumstantial evidence is enough to get a person a life sentence in any court on the earth. Why is it that when people are whistleblowing and putting their life and livelihood on the line, they receive so much scrutiny? I don't think that's by chance.
There have been rumours circulating online that Diddy may have poisoned Jamie Foxx, which caused his 2023 hospitalisation. In his Netflix show, he compared Combs to the devil in revealing his near-death experience after a brain bleed and stroke. He said, I say this all the time. I saw the tunnel. I didn't see the light. It was hot in that tunnel. I thought, shit, have I gone to the wrong place? I looked up the end of a tunnel and I thought I saw the devil saying, come on. Or was that Puffy? I'm effing around, but if that was Puffy, had a flaming bottle of Johnson. And no, I'm just kidding. I think that you have taken that to be a not too oblique reference to the fact that he's suggesting he may too have been poisoned.
When Piers Morgan delivered his testimony, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Moments earlier, the room had been filled with quiet murmurs, but as Morgan began to speak, silence took over. His calm, deliberate words carried a weight that was impossible to ignore. At the center of his testimony were allegations about exclusive gatherings that, according to Morgan, were far more than just lavish parties. He described them as controlled environments where luxury masked deeper issues, events that appeared glamorous on the surface, but behind closed doors, allegedly revealed troubling dynamics of power and control. Morgan painted a picture of weekend retreats hosted by high-profile figures, filled with celebrities and opulence. But he claimed these weren't just social affairs. They had a purpose. According to his account, attendees were drawn into situations that left them exposed and uneasy, creating a subtle pressure that kept them silent. What truly caught the court's attention was Morgan's claim that he wasn't simply repeating rumors. He testified that he had spoken with individuals who had attended these gatherings, people who, despite their status, were hesitant to speak publicly. His ties within the media industry, he explained, had given him access to first-hand stories others couldn't reach. Morgan's composed delivery made it clear he was taking this moment seriously. He even suggested there was material evidence to support what he was saying, communications, photographs, and possible witness accounts. Though he stopped short of presenting that evidence, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted noticeably. The defense reacted quickly. Diddy's attorneys objected, arguing that Morgan's claims lacked verification. But by then, the room had already absorbed the gravity of his statements. Diddy's tense posture said as much as any spoken word, and the energy around the courtroom grew more intense. Outside the courtroom, the ripple effect was immediate. Within hours, media outlets were buzzing with speculation. Online discussions exploded, with the public and experts alike weighing in on what these claims might mean. Morgan's testimony didn't just stir controversy. It pointed a spotlight at Diddy himself, raising difficult questions about influence, accountability, and what might still be uncovered in the days ahead.
I think it's kind of becoming a circus, and all the allegations, and now with everybody explaining like what's happening in the bedroom. I mean, every day it just sounds crazier and crazier and freakier and weirder, right? And I'm like trying to understand, with all this being said, like with Kid Cudi going on and saying everything that happened, but then ended up saying, Cassie played both of us. It's like, where are we trying to go? Are we just trying to like tell all of these crazy stories and then that equals out to sex trafficking? I mean, it's starting to become outrageous. It's a RICO case. It's really only Diddy and maybe one other person. Like, I'm just starting to feel uncomfortable and I'm starting to feel weird about this whole thing.
Well, it was certainly interesting last week when I interviewed this guy who had the pseudonym The Punisher, who was hired, and it was Cassie Ventura. Right. So it was a sort of very interesting interview because Cassie Ventura did all the negotiating, did all the payments, and did all the texting to him. Diddy would sit in the corner of a hotel room naked, and he would watch, with her apparent full consent, this guy come in and have sex with her. And it happened maybe a dozen times over a 2.5-year period. Now, none of that says to me that that is a serious crime. If she is the one that is organizing it all. Now, she is arguing it was coercion and so on. You know all these people very well. You know Cassie Ventura. You know Diddy well.
As testimony unfolded, detailing unsettling accounts of alleged secret gatherings, all attention shifted toward Sean Diddy Combs. What the courtroom witnessed in that moment was a dramatic shift in demeanor, one that few will forget. At the start of the trial, Diddy had presented a calm, collected image. He sat with confidence, quietly engaging with his legal team, showing the poise expected of a man who built a global brand. But that composure began to slip once Piers Morgan began to speak. As Morgan outlined his claims, observers noted a visible change. Diddy's posture stiffened, his jaw clenched, and his hands, once still, began to grip the edge of the defense table. With each new detail, his discomfort became harder to hide. He leaned back, his frustration increasingly apparent. Though his voice stayed low, his agitation showed in the quick movements of his hands and the anxious glances toward his attorneys. Then came the breaking point. When Morgan revealed what many believed to be the most damaging part of his testimony, Diddy's control gave way. He slammed his hand on the table, a sharp, startling sound that caught everyone's attention, including the jury. His legal team quickly leaned in, trying to calm him down. One lawyer placed a hand on his arm, but Diddy brushed it aside, his frustration clearly boiling over. The judge promptly intervened, pausing the proceedings to address Diddy directly. In a composed yet firm tone, he reminded him to uphold courtroom decorum. Diddy nodded in response, attempting to collect himself. But the moment had already struck a chord. The confident image he once projected was now visibly strained. Outside the courtroom, the news traveled fast. Reports of his reaction dominated headlines and flooded social media feeds. Reactions were split. Some sympathized with the pressure he faced, while others saw it as a revealing crack in his public persona. Regardless of opinion, one thing was clear. This moment changed the tone of the trial. Diddy was no longer just a figure under scrutiny. He was showing signs of stress that couldn't be ignored. And as testimony continued, the courtroom braced itself for the next critical turn. The spotlight was now brighter than ever, and the stakes had never felt higher.
I was just thinking, like, what year are we in? Like, it feels like we're in this vortex of, like, this dominatrix story about all of these different characters that are coming out and the names and the nicknames. And, I mean, it's intense. I think that it's entertaining for sure, and it's definitely press worthy. But at the end of it all, it's like, this is what Diddy is being charged for, and this is what he possibly might serve a lot of jail time for. I don't understand it, and I really want to know where this is all gonna go and where does this lead? Because again, it's weird, it's freaky. Like the whole oral thing with the 19 guys and the blisters. I mean, it feels like they're just trying to paint these pictures of Diddy. And I was around Diddy all the way pretty much up until the arrest. And all I got from that when I hung out with Diddy, and this is word to my mom and kids. He's always inspired me to be great. When I left, I felt like I could do more for my business. I felt like I had more power because I wanted to be more vocal in running my companies and call my wife if we were getting into it and send her flowers. I mean, these are all the things he was instilling to me and all of the young guys around that were inspired and you know, look at him as a mentor. So now these private things that happen when we were around and never even got a chance to see this kind of crazy stuff, it just sounds like this was a private, personal thing that was happening, and now it's starting to become it's diabolical.
Piers Morgan didn't just testify. He came prepared with what he claimed was hard evidence. As his testimony continued, Morgan reached for a folder handed to him by a court officer. Inside were documents he said directly linked Sean Diddy Combs to the controversial private events that have become central to this case. One by one, Morgan laid them on the table: printed text messages, hazy but intriguing photographs, and transcripts of conversations he believed confirmed his account. The courtroom, already tense, fell completely silent. The first pages were handed to the judge for review. According to Morgan, the messages were exchanges between Diddy and unnamed parties arranging exclusive, invite-only gatherings. Some of the messages, though redacted, reportedly included phrases like "no phones allowed" and "everything stays between us," language Morgan pointed to as proof of secrecy and control. He highlighted timestamps and specific weekends, which he claimed matched dates tied to the events in question. Then came the photographs. Though lacking clear context and not overtly incriminating, the images reportedly showed luxurious settings, private yachts, high-end properties, and lavish rooms decorated in dramatic, themed styles. Morgan testified that these backdrops aligned closely with what several confidential sources had described to him in private interviews. The defense quickly objected, challenging the relevance of the images. They argued the photos were vague and could just as easily have been taken at any celebrity party. The judge allowed discussion of the images, but warned Morgan to stay focused on factual testimony. Throughout, Diddy's legal team pushed back aggressively. They questioned the credibility of the materials and accused Morgan of presenting hearsay as evidence. One defense attorney claimed the text messages were misleading and the photos meaningless, without context. But Morgan held firm. He insisted that the items weren't random or isolated, but instead represented a consistent pattern, one he had tracked over time. Then came the most unexpected development: an audio recording. Morgan claimed the voice on the tape belonged to someone very close to Diddy, speaking openly about the nature of these private gatherings. The courtroom sat on edge at the possibility of hearing it. But before it could be played, Diddy's attorneys moved to block it. They argued the recording was inadmissible until it could be verified. After a tense debate, the judge agreed to delay consideration of the recording until future proceedings. Still, the effect was immediate. Jurors appeared more alert, their expressions now showing the weight of what had just been presented. Whether the evidence was decisive or not, Morgan had succeeded in raising new questions. Outside the courthouse, reporters scrambled to update the story. News outlets debated whether the evidence was conclusive or merely suggestive. But one thing was clear: this trial had entered a new and unpredictable phase. And with the defense preparing a counteroffensive, the battle for public perception and legal clarity was just beginning.
Sounds to me, unless I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you think that there's been a massive overreach here. This is personal behavior between Diddy and Cassie Ventura that we've seen so far, that it doesn't cross the line from where you sit into serious crime under the RICO law, which of course was, intended for mafia members and so on. Do you think that's what we're witnessing here with this case? That this was consensual? It may be freaky, it may be sexually deviant, it may be all these things, but it was apparently consensual behavior and not a crime.
I agree, and there's things that we saw in these videos, and they were disturbing, and that's not okay, right? But looking at the crimes that he's being charged for, this is where it starts to go overboard. And it's like whoever was mad at the top was really mad. And I think we're here now, and I think it's a flex. Because, like, what are they trying to get out of this in this court case? Does everybody that's talking about these stories, do they want to see Puffy rot in jail? Is that what we're here for? Because I just think that that's unfair, and just knowing everybody, it just could have been done a different way. And now it's starting to worry me. And I honestly think that Diddy will get out. And I think that there's nothing here, right? I think they made their point, whatever they were trying to make. Your point is made.
As the dust settled from Piers Morgan's explosive testimony, the trial against Sean Diddy Combs entered uncharted legal territory. Week 2 proved to be a turning point, where shocking revelations collided with mounting courtroom drama. Morgan's allegations about the so-called freak-off rituals, bolstered by texts, photographs, and the tease of a bombshell audio recording, reshaped the trial from a case about accusations into one centered on credibility, influence, and power. Suddenly, this wasn't just about what Diddy may or may not have done. It was about how deeply his empire might be implicated. The image of Diddy as an untouchable cultural force was under siege. Analysts dissected every word of Morgan's testimony, while the media ran headlines about his evidence. Social media erupted. Some saw the claims as exposing a hidden truth. Others dismissed them as sensational and circumstantial. Hashtags linked to the trial trended globally. Memes, theories, and courtroom commentary went viral, reflecting a public captivated and divided. Inside the courtroom, Diddy's legal team scrambled to regain control. They filed motions to block key evidence and worked to cast doubt on Morgan's motives. One spokesperson stated bluntly, "We strongly believe the so-called evidence lacks merit and will not hold up under closer scrutiny." Behind the scenes, sources suggested the defense was preparing to call high-profile witnesses, figures who might dismantle Morgan's credibility or offer alternative explanations. Prosecutors, meanwhile, saw the momentum shift in their favor. According to one legal analyst, even if the evidence is open to interpretation, the sheer volume and consistency of Morgan's claims change the tone in that courtroom. Jurors can't unhear it. But beyond the trial, the fallout for Diddy has already begun. Once celebrated as a pioneering entrepreneur and music mogul, he's now facing intense scrutiny. Rumors are circulating that several brands are quietly backing away. One major partnership has reportedly paused all promotion involving Diddy until the trial's outcome becomes clearer. The fan base is fracturing too. While some continue to show loyalty, others are expressing deep disappointment, even outrage. For many, the allegations, true or not, have cast a long shadow over his legacy. As Week 2 concluded, legal experts made one thing clear: we haven't reached the climax yet. Both sides seem to be holding cards still unseen. Could Diddy's team flip the narrative? Or will more evidence surface to deepen the crisis? This trial is far from over. And the most shocking revelations may still lie ahead. From Piers Morgan's bombshell to Diddy's tense courtroom outburst, reputations are being tested, and the world is watching. Has Diddy's image taken a temporary hit? Or are we witnessing the unraveling of a cultural icon's empire? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned. This case isn't just about one man. It's about power, secrets, and what happens when the spotlight turns on the ones who once controlled it.